In 1976, commercial aviation had a glaring vulnerability. If hijackers took control of a plane and landed it in an allied country, negotiators had leverage. But if they forced the flight deep into hostile, non-aligned territory, governments considered the situation an unsolvable puzzle. The passengers were trapped, and their survival odds plummeted to near zero. That exact scenario played out when hijackers violently seized control of Air France Flight 139 mid-flight, turning a routine journey into a nightmare. Instead of completing its scheduled route in Europe, the captors immediately rerouted the aircraft, forcing the pilots to fly far south into the African continent until they landed in Entebbe, Uganda. They chose Entebbe to isolate the hostages. By weaponizing the surrounding geography, they wrapped the captives in a protective layer of thousands of miles of hostile airspace, turning the airport into an untouchable fortress. Once on the ground, the captors issued a strict ultimatum. Israel had to release 53 specific prisoners and pay a ransom of $5 million. The demand came with a hard deadline. If the clock ran out, the terrorists promised to begin executing the hostages one by one. This created a massive, immediate problem for Israeli planners. Entebbe sits 4,000 kilometers away from Tel Aviv, separated by a vast expanse of unfriendly territory. Planners faced the extreme distance, an active foreign military, and an expiring clock. By any standard military doctrine, organizing a rescue mission under those conditions was theoretically impossible. Back in Israel, government officials made a deliberate choice to stall. They publicly entered into negotiations with the captors, while military leaders secretly drafted a response codenamed Operation Thunderbolt. The primary logistical hurdle was straightforward but severe. They needed to move a heavily armed strike force 4,000 kilometers south without being detected, and without any option to refuel on friendly ground. To carry that kind of weight, they relied on a fleet of heavy military transport planes. These aircraft were large enough to load armored vehicles and dozens of elite commandos into their cargo bays. Getting there required a highly dangerous flight path. The pilots flew the transports roughly 100 feet above the waters of the Red Sea, flying aggressively low to stay completely under the radar of surrounding nations. Any early detection would mean failure. The strike team's survival relied entirely on absolute secrecy and the shock of a phantom arrival. The tension peaked in the dead of night when the transport planes finally approached Entebbe, touching down on an unlit runway in complete darkness. The moment the cargo ramps lowered, Israeli commandos and their vehicles rolled directly onto the active tarmac in total silence. They immediately executed a rapid assault, driving straight toward the specific terminal building where over 100 passengers were being held. In a chaotic firefight that lasted only minutes, the commandos systematically neutralized both the hijackers and the Ugandan soldiers attempting to defend the building. The speed of the raid kept the hostages alive, but the assault unit suffered a severe loss when their commander, Yonatan Netanyahu, was killed in the exchange. With the area secured, the strike team quickly organized a frantic evacuation, guiding the terrified passengers out of the terminal and onto the idling planes. In less than 60 minutes, the strike force arrived, eliminated the threat, secured the passengers, and lifted off, inverting a guaranteed death sentence through pure tactical execution. The return flight brought the surviving hostages back to Israel, delivering them directly to their families waiting on the tarmac. To honor the sacrifice of the raid's fallen commander, the government officially renamed the mission Operation Yonatan. Globally, the sheer audacity of the rescue triggered intense, polarizing debate. At the United Nations, diplomats argued fiercely over the legality of breaching Ugandan borders, pitting the rules of national sovereignty against a state's right to protect human life. While politicians debated, military strategists took notes. This single operation forced intelligence agencies to adopt entirely new approaches to counterterrorism and special operations planning. The 1976 Entebbe raid demonstrated that a nation's reach to protect its citizens had no geographic limits, securing its place as the boldest and most consequential hostage rescue in modern history.